A few months back, I made a really long video called Producing with ADHD Sucks. Here's what to do about it. And so many people wrote in to let me know that it really helped them. But just as many people said it was way too long and they'd love a version that skips the why it sucks portion and jumps right into the what to do about it. So I've compiled all the tips from that video, plus a bunch of new ones, and to make sure this stays engaging, I've put it into a numbered list. So let's dive into the top 10 ways to survive being a music producer with ADHD. And by the way, if you're new here, my name is Adam, and every week I drop a new video about music production. So if that's something you're into, go ahead and subscribe, and let's get started. I'm going to start with the most impactful tip first, because I know all of you are still paying attention, and this is the number one tip that people said really helped them last time. So anything else you learn in this video can just be a bonus. But that is to wear headphones when you're working on music tasks that aren't interesting to you. So comping, editing, time correction, stuff that isn't super creative, not like the things we're excited about, like tracking and mixing. Well, if you have a hard time getting those tasks done, try wearing headphones. The fact that you're literally wearing something on your head that's meant for working on music, it kind of tricks us into staying focused the same way that some service dogs will be given a backpack to wear when they're on duty. Plus, the closeness to our ears and the extra isolation helps to rein in our brains a little bit. There's something about being directly plugged into your work that just helps you keep your focus. It's a little more stimulating and it's hard to ignore when it's right there in your ears. And it feels really silly to lollygag when you've got headphones on. Now, another benefit is that small problems and mistakes often reveal themselves when you're wearing headphones. A fade that's got a pop in it, a mouth noise in a vocal. These are the types of little details that we will sometimes miss when we're not locked in. So give yourself more chances to catch that stuff, and you'll get a lot less revisions about click noises and stuff like that. So the next time you have to pick through 900 vocal takes to find the one good one, try putting on some cans. Now, number 2 is to become the drink goblin. So every time you have an impulse to do a task that's not related to your work, take a sip of one of your drinks. Oh, and by the way, you're gonna need like 4 different drinks for this. Make at least one of them some form of water. Sparkling is good for those little dopamine hits, and try to make the rest low or no calorie. Things like black tea or coffee, water with some ginger, lemon, mint, some muddled up berries, stuff that's not a big glass of watered down corn syrup. Now this solves 2 problems. First, it trains you to channel your impulses towards something besides going to check Reddit. But second, it also helps you stay actually hydrated. Once I've sat down to work on a song, any reason to stand up is a reason to go do some side quest I shouldn't be doing. So the fewer trips to the fridge required to stay hydrated, the better. And for trips to the bathroom, just leave your phone in the studio. You can survive 2 minutes without having it in the room. Now, number 3 is to fill your periphery with some interesting stuff. Lava lamps, lucky cats, a great smelling candle, even a second screen playing TV with the sound off. All of these are things you can look at while you wait for things like sessions to load, or for tracks to freeze or export, or Melodyne transfers. And breaking the fourth wall here a bit, this isn't the studio I work in on a day-to-day basis. So before you say I'm a hypocrite for having such a tidy space, I promise my studio is not this clean. But anyway, giving yourself some stimuli that's always on is much better than ones that you have to choose to turn on and then back off. Pulling out your phone or opening your browser to check up on something while you wait 5 minutes for Melodyne to import vocals is fine until the import is done. And now you have to actively decide to turn your distraction off and get back to work. Now, smartphone apps and social media sites are literally designed by the most intelligent programmers and machine learning to keep you on them as long as possible. The constant dopamine hit of scrolling, seeing something in bright colors, and then scrolling to the next thing is crafted to suck you into a black hole of never-ending content. Now, a lava lamp has lava in it, And sometimes the bubbles go up and down in a cool shape. 4, use your limitations to your advantage. There are some things that we're going to always struggle with as ADHD havers. But if you can use some of these things to stop you from doing stuff you shouldn't be doing, then you can at least mitigate some of the negatives. One example is to use our task avoidance to our advantage. Sometimes the tiniest obstacle is enough to stop us from doing something we know we should be doing. But have you ever flipped this on its head and used it to make it harder to do something you shouldn't? The way to use this to your advantage is to put barriers between yourself and things you should not be doing or things you should move on from. Like, one way you could do this is exporting all of your tracks as waves once you're happy with the production, and then importing those into a new blank session for mixing. That way, your production is locked in and you can't keep tinkering with it while you mix, which is effectively going to stop you from finishing the production or the mix. So if your mix session is just, say, 36 stereo tracks of audio consolidated and ready to mix, you're going to actually mix the song instead of going back and changing the kick pattern or removing one note in the bridge's keyboards, because that would take effort. Like, to go actually open the old session, make a new stem, and then bring that into the mix session. Is it really worth it? Now, number 5 is going to be a bit of a shameless plug, but I am in the testing phases of a planner specifically for music producers. And while it's not explicitly written for people with ADHD, I have found it to play really nicely with it. I mean, I am writing it after all. I want to test this thing out and use it for a solid chunk of time before it goes out into the world. But in the meantime, if you click the link in the description, I'll email you the templates that are locked in so you can start using them to keep yourself on track. You can literally take the PDF and print out as many copies as you want, so you don't have to wait for the real book to come out or pay for anything to help get yourself more organized. Now, number 6 is to have a backup task. One thing that makes ADHD hard is the executive dysfunction, which is where you know exactly what you need to do, and you just can't get yourself to start. And when that happens, if you have a backup task, you can effectively procrastinate productively. So instead of staring at a blank session for 3 hours hating your life, do your backup task. Maybe it's clean the studio, maybe it's go to the gym, maybe it's writing a new demo. Basically, just do something good and productive. And instead of sitting there and doing nothing, schedule time tomorrow to do the thing that you can't make yourself do today. Once I realized this was actually an option, I stopped having as many days where I get 0 done, because those days have turned into some of my most productive days instead. Now, 7 is to not let yourself do 2 things at once. So the upside of our amazing ability to multitask is that we can multitask, but the downside is that we can multitask. Basically, the ADHD brain has the ability to spin way more plates than someone who doesn't have ADHD. But at the same time, how much attention are you really giving each plate? So if you can figure out ways to stop yourself from multitasking, do it. An easy example is to turn off your screen when you're listening to your production or your mix to see what changes you should make. While it's playing, you should be taking mental notes of what needs work. But what you'll also be doing is cleaning up some fades or double checking the kick drum timing. So by the time you get to the end of the song, you've paused it 10 times and taken 0 notes. Now, if the screen is off and you've got a piece of paper in front of you, all you can do is listen and take notes. So yeah, you're getting less done because you're not multitasking, but you're going to finish the task that you actually need to do. Now, number 8 is to always bargain backwards. So us ADHD folks seem to have a thing they need to do and a thing we actually want to do. And it is always a battle to pick the one that's correct. That's how we end up working on our actual work from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then somehow we're in the garage building a new side table. And then we're working on music again from 8 p.m. until when our eyes don't work anymore. And the way this happens is with bargaining. We make deals with ourselves. I'll only work on the side project for an hour. I'll even set a timer. And then I'll pay myself back by working really hard on music the rest of the day. And then the timer goes off and you snooze for another hour and another hour. Just a few times, only to realize it's now 6 or 8 p.m. and you've basically spent the whole day having fun and getting no real work done. So, always bargain backwards means that you are just going to remind yourself that the bargain needs to be spun around to face the correct way. Work on the music first. Earn the gratifying activity by finishing the music, and then work on the side project until you can't keep your eyes open anymore. Because there is no worse feeling than having to turn down a dinner invite or a last-minute hang because you have to work late, when you could have said yes if you'd just done your work in the hours that you already set aside to do your work. And I know do your work in order is like, duh, but I have ADHD. But if you remember, always bargain backwards, and you say it to yourself anytime you have to make those decisions, then you will actually kind of make yourself do it. It's like a weird trick. So try it out, see if it works. Now, number 9, delete as many screens from your process as possible. So like we talked about before, algorithmic apps are designed to suck you in and keep you distracted. And one way they do that is with notifications. So when you see that little badge with a number in it, you just can't help but see what's waiting inside. It's like a big jelly donut that you just have to take a bite of to see what flavor it is. But surprise, the flavor is Jim from high school liked your comment, jelly. And boy, is it mid as hell. But you're on their platform now, so music can wait. So we are going to remove that temptation by doing everything that's not in our DAW on paper. So taking notes, writing down lyrics, basically anything you can do with a pen and a paper will replace some screens. And your production computer, same thing. Turn off the notifications for all your apps, take everything off your desktop that you can, basically treat your PC like it's a really fancy tape machine, and you will stay locked in for longer. And even better, once you've got all your cloud licenses loaded up and your DAWs open, turn off the Wi-Fi on your computer. You will feel like a real buffoon turning it back on to go read some pointless tweets. So get that machine unhooked from the internet as fast as possible, and you'll be good to go. And number 10, one common technique that ADHD folks employ to stay on task is called body doubling, which I feel has really taken off during the work from home era. It's basically just inviting someone else who has to work from home to come work with you in the same space. So you'll stay productive, because you don't want to look like an idiot, like watching YouTube videos all day when you made someone come over to work with you. And on the flip side, you won't want to look like a wild animal, abandoning all of your work and your work buddy to go to every pawn shop in search of a pair of rollerblades or whatever the heck else you decided you need right now. Now, I've got a tight little circle of other producer friends, and we'll occasionally body double for each other when we really need it. And that has been a game changer on those days when it just seems impossible to actually get anything done. Just having someone on the couch behind me saying, yeah, that's good, keep going. It can be really, really helpful. And on the days where I just have boring stuff like admin tasks to do, I'll offer to go do the body doubling, and I'll just knock out those silent tasks, like responding to emails or whatever it is. Now, if you do in-person sessions, one way to have built-in body doubling is to do more of your editing with the artists there, if they're interested and down for it. Like, I'd rather comp a singer's vocal with them there and get it done and get the approval on the comp right there than to say, hey, once you leave, I'm going to tune and comp this vocal and I'll send you the export. And then now it gets pushed into tomorrow. It gets pushed into my personal time. I'm doing it, late at night. Just do it there, have them hang out for another 20, 30 minutes and knock it out. Get the thumbs up, and then you aren't going back and forth on email to make sure everything's good to go, because now that spreads that task out into multiple days. Obviously, that doesn't work for every artist, but the ones who I trust to be in the room when I do that stuff are a great built-in body double. And if you're working more remote, tools like Zoom and audio movers will allow you to do attended sessions over IP. So if you're really struggling to break through a certain plateau on a track, Maybe set up an hour appointment where you have the artist listen and watch your screen while you take the production or the mix from 90 to 100. They'll probably appreciate that look behind the curtain, and again, you can get approvals immediately instead of kicking that can down the road into the next day or week. And there is no way you'll get distracted and stop working on the song if the artist is right there watching your screen. So there you have it, my top 10 hacks for ADHD music producers. And if you're interested in watching that full 30-minute video too, give it a watch here. More than a few people have said listening to it made for a great pseudo body double while they did kind of boring work. So if you want to let it play in the background while you clean your studio, be my guest. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.